And it's now time to welcome back Rob Lees from Mortgage Choice Blue Mountains in Penrith for our weekly finance segment. And today, Rob, we're going to be talking about self-managed super funds.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, first of all, Rob, what is a self-managed super fund? How does it differ from a retail super fund or an industry super fund?
Sure. Well, self-managed super fund, as the name suggests, is a superannuation fund that you take control of and that you manage, which is different to what most people would have. Most people would have either a retail superannuation fund, and retail superannuation funds are normally managed by the big financial institutions, like the banks. Commonwealth Bank is the Colonial First State Super, ANZ, the One Path Super, and normally the retail superannuation funds have lots of bells and whistles, lots of different investment options. They may have well over 100 investment options. And then the industry super funds usually are lower cost, simpler types of funds, and are normally, initially were aligned to a particular industry, like the building industry had CBUS, was connected with the health industry and so on. And so a self-managed super fund is you would actually set up the entity, the self-managed super fund. You can then roll over your retail or industry super fund into a self-managed super fund account, and you take control of it. You could potentially just have it sitting in a bank account if you wanted to, but then why would you do that? Obviously, you're not going to really gain much if you had it in a bank account. But you take control of the superannuation fund yourself. You decide where you want to invest it. You can invest it in fixed interest. You can do direct share trading. You can even invest in works of art within your self-managed super fund, or you could buy property within your self-managed super fund. I was talking to a fellow the other day, and he's actually bought 2 car parking spots in the city and within his self-managed super fund, and collects rental from that. So there's all sorts of options there that you can have within a self-managed super fund.
So get it working for you, basically. So you've mentioned a lot of the pros of having a self-managed super fund. What are some of the cons?
Sure, yeah. Well, the pro is, the most positive thing is you take control of the fund rather than outsourcing it to somebody else. You take control of it. You manage it yourself. There's lots of ways that you can choose to invest that. But I guess the downside, the first one is that there's probably quite a bit of cost that people don't think about in setting up a self-managed super fund, particularly if you're going to buy property or borrow to buy property within a self-managed super fund. It could cost well over $3,000 to set up, because you need to set up not only the self-managed super fund, company trustee for the self-managed super fund, then you need a property trust to hold the property, company, and then a company trustee for that. So you've actually got 4 entities that need to be set up. And so that's the initial setup. And then the ongoing cost is, I think for mine, is well over $3,000 a year, because you need to pay to get the tax return done for the self-managed super fund. It needs to be audited. There's an audit fee, and also there's company registration fees and things like that. So for a lot of people, it's not really. Some people look at their superannuation fund and they look at the fees that are coming out of it, and they think that's it. Let's go into a self-managed super fund and save. You may not necessarily save unless you've got round about $200,000 in a self-managed super fund. I should have said too that you can have a self-managed super fund with your spouse. And in fact, you can have up to 4 members in a self-managed super fund as long as they're family members.
Rob, what about the fact you also have to get them audited, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, and there's a cost in that as well. So that's probably the main thing, the cost. The second thing is the responsibility. And again, a lot of people don't think through that. Superannuation funds are regulated by the Superannuation Act, and there's big penalties for getting it wrong. And so as a trustee of your self-managed super fund, you need to make sure you're managing it properly.
Yeah, if you're managing it,
That's
and
exactly
you're
right.
responsible for it as well.
That's exactly right. You're responsible and you're accountable for it as well.
Yeah.
If something goes
so a lot
wrong.
of people look at those fees that they're getting with their non-self-managed funds and thinking, I could save all that money. I can do that.
That's right. That's right. And maybe not. And I guess that's the other thing. A lot of people don't have the expertise to do it themselves.
And the time.
do you really want to be monitoring your superannuation investments on a regular basis? So within an industry fund or a retail fund, you're paying the fund manager to do that on your behalf.
I was going to say, couldn't you pay someone to manage it for you?
Yes,
Your
you can. So a lot of people
self-managed
do that.
fund.
You set up a self-managed super fund, and a lot of people will outsource the fund management of it, perhaps to a financial advisor or someone like that. And it's important within the fund to have an investment plan, and a lot of people will need some help in getting that together as well.
Okay, so a few different paths that one could walk there with the whole self-managed super fund situation. And speaking of walking, folks, we're going to play a little bit more music. This is Aerosmith with "Walk This Way." If I could walk that way, I'd need heels.
That was Aerosmith with "Walk This Way," and we reckon the man with the biggest lips in rock music, Steven Tyler. Look, we're back with Rob Lees talking self-managed super funds. Rob, what sort of person are self-managed super funds more suitable for, and what should people do before setting up one of these funds?
Yeah, back in the old days, when we looked at self-managed super funds, a typical client was someone who liked to be in control. That's what we'd say. So normally it would be a self-employed person. They tended to be the typical person who'd set up a self-managed fund because they want to have control of everything.
Good for control freaks, eh?
Someone like you, Vent.
So, you think I'm a control freak, do you, Rob?
No,
It's not actually.
sitting in front of the control desk there, but that is
an illusion.
That's right. But that isn't really how it is anymore. It's what was for perhaps the more sophisticated has become very much mainstream now, particularly now with a lot of people setting up self-managed super funds so they can buy property within super. And as Australians, we love our property. So the fact that we can own property within superannuation and we can actually borrow to buy property in super has made it very attractive for the mums and dads. But there's a lot of risks that people don't think through, and I think some people are diving into it too fast. A lot of inquiries I get about it, people may only have a small amount of money within their superannuation fund, and if you think about it, if all of your superannuation fund is going into purchasing one asset, which is a property, it means you're very reliant on that one asset doing well.
Eggs basket,
That's
all
exactly
in one.
right.
Yep.
Rob, you raised a really interesting question, and I hope I don't put you on the spot, but both in terms of as an individual and as a couple, what's the latest thinking on what you need in your super to have a sort of a reasonably comfortable retirement? Are there any sort of kind of rough yardsticks about the sort of amount you need in your super if you retire at 60 or 65?
Well, it's going to depend on how much you want to earn, how much you need to live on in retirement. So I think you're going to need at least an absolute minimum $500,000, and to be a little more comfortable, maybe getting up towards $750 to $800. So this is the issue for a lot of us. We don't have enough money in our superannuation funds, and I guess this is why a lot of people now are turning to the self-managed super funds to boost their retirement savings through property and gearing to buying property. So I'm certainly not saying it's a bad idea, but the key thing I think is getting advice around that space, because some people are actually setting up the fund, going through the expense of setting up the fund, even going so far as applying for a loan to purchase the property, but then there needs to be an actual financial planner sign-off on the loan documents before the bank will actually release the funds. And a lot of cases, when the financial planner then looks at the plan, he's not in a position to actually recommend that they go into a self-managed super fund. So the advice is very, very important, and having a strategy that's going to get you there in the long term.
Okay, so what about topping up your super as you go in order to help to bring it up to those levels?
Yeah, well, that's obviously going to be one way to increase your super, putting more away. So it's important to keep contributing, and particularly as for those of us getting a little bit older, we hopefully are in a position to
nobody
afford.
in this studio.
Speak for yourself. I think we're all around the same age, aren't we? So it's all about perspective, isn't it?
That's right. Yes.
But
yes.
Contributing more. So you can contribute $35,000 a year into your super. and that certainly boosts it. Yeah.
Good. Well, it's so nice to be sitting here in the studio with another couple of 20-something-year-olds. We love it here. Shall we have another quick music break, and then we'll say goodbye to Rob, and we'll tell everybody about the Christmas party coming up. All right. What are we going to listen to next? This is Petula Clark with "Don't Sleep in the Subway."
That was "Don't Sleep in the Subway," darling, with Petula Clark. We're playing some old classics today.
And we'd like to thank Rob Lees for joining us again. And that was Rob Lees from Mortgage Choice Blue Mountains in Penrith. And you can contact them on 47399749 or visit their office at 3/13 Hope Street in Blaxland.